But first, do you like a good zombie movie? Millions of viewers online like this Australian zombie film. The problem is they were downloading it for free via Pirate Bay. The government says it's illegal downloading of movies like this that must be stopped with a new website blocking bill about to be introduced to the Senate next week. The government's copyright amendment bill is designed to protect the interests of rights holders. If the new laws are passed, unlike the big Hollywood studios, will be able to use Australian courts to block overseas websites which offer pirated material. The bill has support from both the major parties and passed through the lower house this week.
There is no silver bullet to deal with piracy, with internet piracy. But this bill provides an important part of the solution to the problem of online copyright infringement. It's vital that copyright owners have an efficient mechanism to disrupt the steady supply of infringing content to Australian internet users from overseas-based websites.
After the bill had passed the lower house, Labor's Ed Husic criticised the legislation.
You've not once heard a rights holder say that if they get major gains in reducing piracy, this will flow through to better prices and better accessible content. And I dare them to actually say it. They won't do it. They will not respond to consumers.
The Greens are calling for a series of amendments, but it now seems inevitable that the bill will pass the upper house. Critics claim it's impossible to block online piracy, and the new laws will allow current and future governments to censor whistleblowers. John Stewart and Benjamin Sveen produced this report.
Early this year, a new Australian zombie film called Wormwood became one of the most pirated movies in the world. Wormwood was released at the cinema in Australia in February, but there was no online video on demand available for 60 days. The film cost over $1 million to make, and its producers say there were thousands of illegal downloads.
As a result of that, we got pirated very heavily. We were in the top 10 in Pirate Bay out of all films in the world for about 2 weeks. Which, you know, for an upcoming bunch of filmmakers, it's very good exposure, but it also means that you get absolutely hammered when it comes to actually recouping some of the costs that have gone into the film.
It's stories like these that have led the federal government to introduce new copyright legislation, and independent filmmakers applaud it.
I think it's a step in the right direction. I think it's really, really good. Obviously, a lot of these websites are operating outside of Australia, and to get some sort of way to, I guess, put up some sort of jurisdiction around that and to stop piracy, I think it's a very good thing.
If the laws are introduced and the Australian courts are used to block overseas piracy sites, they may run up against this man. Peter Sunder is the co-founder of Pirate Bay, one of the world's most popular sites for file sharing and illegal downloads. Last year he spent 5 months in a Swedish jail after being convicted of breaching copyright laws. Authorities around the world have been trying to shut down Pirate Bay since 2006, but it keeps re-emerging in some form in different countries.
Well, if you look at the countries that have tried to block piracy, and for instance in Denmark, just a few minutes away from here, they tried blocking the Pirate Bay, and what happened is that people found ways, very easy ways, to circumvent the block, and the traffic to Pirate Bay from those countries spikes afterwards, because people aren't stupid, and there's really easy alternatives to circumventing most of these legislations. So it becomes kind of a whack-a-mole game.
Despite the introduction of cheaper streaming services like Netflix and Stan, rights holders are still pushing governments around the world to block piracy sites and make people pay for content.
Well, Roadshow famously lost a big High Court of Australia case against iiNet over authorising copyright infringement. In response, Roadshow has made significant major political contributions to both the Coalition and the Australian Labor Party.
A spokesman for Village Roadshow said,
Village recognises that consumers want cheap, timely and easily available product, and we are working hard to deliver that. While we know they will not end piracy completely, the site blocking legislation and the draft code will be another tool in the toolkit to help all rights holders in the ongoing exercise of protecting their valuable creative content.
Critics say that governments could misuse the legislation and try and block sites used by groups like WikiLeaks.
There's a great deal of concern that the copyright bill could be deployed by governments or companies to censor access to websites that revealed particular whistleblowing information.
After spending time in prison, Peter Sunder still argues that file sharing and piracy benefits humanity more than it harms.
I go all around the world and I talk at conferences and I meet people from everywhere, and they all tell me how happy they are and how much Pirate Bay and file sharing changed their lives. That took them out of poverty because they could learn a trade and they could learn how to do things which made them part of society. So I think that you need to understand those things, and then, you know, me going to jail for a few months was not that bad, actually. I'm super happy with what I did. I wouldn't have changed anything. I'm not the one that should be ashamed of what I did. It's rather that the industry had to lobby the much that they did in order to put me in the prison. They should be ashamed.
But the makers of Wormwood say that piracy is a cancer, destroying creative industries around the world.
Looking towards the future, if we're unable to get money for the product that we're putting out there, it just means that it's definitely unsustainable.